All right, thank you very much for joining us today. Today, we're actually going to be introducing you guys to a new addition to our team. It's going to be a pleasure to get to know him. And so we have Dr. Dr. Ian Ratovsky, and then we also have Elizabeth Reber. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And she's going to be interviewing him. And then after the interview, we're going to have Q&A, so you guys get a chance to get to know him and ask the questions that you may. So I'm looking forward to this time together, and I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Elizabeth.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Reber. I live in Philadelphia. I'm covering Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. So that's my territory, and I support the New York and DC clinics. And we also have Quan Aniki.
Hi, everyone. I'm Quan Aniki. Like Elizabeth said, I am the COM for the Atlanta, Georgia region. I cover quite a vast territory, including Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida Panhandles, North Carolina, South Carolina, pretty much the whole world at this point. Well, thank you for joining. Look forward to meeting the doc.
Damien?
Yes, Damien Cook. I am outreach manager for Maryland, DC, Virginia, West Virginia, and North Carolina, more so Northern and Central North Carolina. So I look forward to continue working with the faces that I recognize here, and also working with those who I haven't seen or met. My number actually is, all of our numbers are actually in the chat. So you can just copy and paste the name and the number of the town that's in your territory. So welcome.
And then Morgan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Morgan. I'm the clinic manager here in the Reston, Virginia location. So excited that everyone was able to join today, but I kind of just help facilitate just everything that's going on here in the clinic.
And then we're going to introduce Dr. Ian Ratovsky. Morgan, do you have his bio?
Yeah, absolutely. So today we're going to be getting to know Dr. Ratovsky, who's new to the Reston team, and you'll be learning kind of a little bit of his background today, why he joined the Amen clinics, what kind of got him into psychiatry in the first place. So Elizabeth's going to be facilitating those questions to him, so you guys can get to know a little bit about his background and just form that connection, so you guys can know who you're referring your patients to. And so he joined the Amen clinics very recently, and he's been doing great so far. His patient feedback has blown me away, and we're so excited to have him as an addition to our team. And so I'm just going to leave it up to Elizabeth and Dr. Ratovsky to kind of get to know each other and to know you guys, and for you guys to get to know him.
Okay.
All right.
Welcome, Dr. Ratovsky. So we wanted to ask you a little bit about your background.
Sure. So it's a complicated question because, I feel like my background has gone in many different directions over, a period of time. So starting early on in college, I have a degree that combined behavioral health, neuroscience, sociology, and it was based off of the biopsychosocial model. So initially I was a business major, and I found the love for the mind. And at that time I switched over, and I was able to find a degree plan that suited many different, avenues of mental health based off of the biopsychosocial model. And I completed that. Once I completed my undergraduate degree, I realized from my experiences that I think I might want to become a psychiatrist. And so I went back to college for 2 years, did my pre-meds, concentration in biochemistry, microbiology, and all of these courses you got to kind of take and, go through the loops to become, fruitful in medical school. And then went to medical school, and I kept gravitating towards a lot of different things. I loved the lifestyle management and in health. I was a fitness trainer as well when I was in college, and so I gravitated towards a lot of like wellness initiatives, and brought that forward into mental health. So I continued through medical school, took a lot of different electives, and then went into an externship program in Arizona after completing medical school, which was an integrative medicine externship with Andrew Weil. And then from there, I went on and developed a wellness initiative at Psychiatric Institute of Washington, where I was able to implement some of the things that I had learned, and then apply that to inpatient psychiatry practice there, and develop different skills using fitness that I had those skills from being a fitness trainer, some things I had learned in Arizona, and my medical knowledge. And then from there, I went into a primary care residency, which completed in Georgia. And from there, I went on to a psychiatry residency in Miami. And then I did some moonlighting and addiction. And then I came to wonderful Amen Clinics.
Can I ask you why you chose Amen Clinics? What drew you?
Sure. It was, for me, it was started from early on. So the first time I really learned about Amen Clinics was when I was in college. And I was sitting at a friend's house. Actually, it was an ex-girlfriend. The relationship wasn't going that well. So sometimes you ask yourself, why do people come into your life? You know, it was a terrible relationship, terrible time. But I think she came into my life for a reason. And I found a book on her bookshelf. And that book was called Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, and by Daniel Amen. And so it was the first time I was exposed to SPECT scans. And so I opened the book, and it was an eye-opening experience. I saw how the brain can look. For example, the one that caught my eye at the moment was an ADD patient who had, the frontal lobes were really disorganized, dropped out, big holes there. I was like, this looks terrible. And then it showed another picture of how that brain can actually transform. And so it was the first time that I had ever heard that you're not stuck with the brain that you have. And so that has resonated with me all through that time of being pre-med, through medical school, and through this journey. And so that was the initial part. So there's more to the story. So Amen Clinics, I say, has tools that work, right? So being able to see your brain, it really allows you to build a relationship with your brain and your mind. And what can really be more important than that, to build a relationship with your mind? Because you can say that you are your mind, right? So the Amen method really allows a lot of new innovations, new tools. At the forefront of psychiatry in my mind. It allows us to really learn about our patients. We get the history a day before, so you can sleep on issues that patients are dealing with, dig into solutions, and really do your best for them. When, in fact, most practices of psychiatry only offer a short amount of time that you spend with them. Here we have about an hour and a half or longer to spend on an initial evaluation. Plus, we've already had the history given to you ahead of time, and you've already thought about a plan. You've already thought about solutions, and you've really had that much more to really impact them. And then you have the second piece, which is you have that holistic solution of being able to integrate the fitness, the best models that can help for specific brain types that we see using the scans, the frontal lobes, temporal lobes, the limbic system, basal ganglia, whatever part that you really want to work towards improving. And then integrating not only medications, but allowing for supplements, nutrition, and so much more than what we do in traditional psychiatry. And so I loved being able to use some of the knowledge I learned in integrative medicine and in my fitness training, and being able to tie that into a very unique plan for every specific patient. And so I often do be able to utilize some skills that I had learned early on, and I've never been able to do that before in medicine.
So exciting. It's so exciting to be able to actually follow what you think is right. What specialties do you have?
So my specialties are quite a range. I just initially, I guess I would consider myself a general psychiatrist. Working from people from wide age group, I'm comfortable working with the geriatric group age group. I'm also interested in working with people that are in adolescence, but typically more like 17, 18 years old. My background, again, going back early to the fitness. So I had the wellness initiatives that I'd like to incorporate. So I founded the wellness committee at 2 different residency programs back in my primary care and in psychiatry. So I'd like to say that my specialty is really geared towards, a wellness initiatives, but also I'm very much focused on trauma.
Wonderful.
I'm writing a book on dissociative identity disorder, and dissociative identity disorder is sometimes termed as complicated PTSD. So it's a very rare diagnosis. I've seen several cases. I've had some referred to me as I started getting deeper and deeper into the research, and I've found that I've come very close to these patients and deal with them in a unique way, where I'm able to really make breakthroughs with a lot of patients that have suffered many experiences in their lives that have been traumatic. So that's one of my main focuses. So integrating not only the wellness piece, but the trauma piece. I've done a lot of volunteer work in disaster relief. So I've been able to see people lose everything from their houses and be very disheveled in their lives, and being able to coach them through these issues. And so I've gravitated only more towards working with people with trauma. Addiction, I'm comfortable with various addiction pieces, particularly more alcohol. A number of things. I think that as a generalist, I'm comfortable seeing just about anybody.
Well, we are so honored to have you join our team. So happy to see, continued amazing outcomes. Like Morgan was saying, that there have been so many outcomes with patients that you've already been seeing. We're very honored and happy to have you. And I'd just like to extend a very warm welcome. I'd also like to open up the floor to questions that our group may have. So you are meeting today some of our colleagues out in the field who we work with. We refer to many of these folks refer to us. These are brain warriors out in the various East Coast communities. So if you would like to go ahead and ask your questions, you can raise your hand icon and Damien will call on you in order. If you guys don't ask questions, I'm going to tell jokes.
I had a question for you. Do me a favor. You have a really, as far as your background and your education that you have received and you studied abroad, you actually went to the University of, was it the Cayman Islands? No, it was the Cayman Islands?
No, it was in St. Lucia. So
St. Lucia. Yeah, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So it's interesting. So remember, I talked briefly about having a girlfriend that was kind of a little crazy experience that was going on in my life right at that time. So it wasn't working out, and so we broke up. And I heard about this beautiful medical school that was on the island of St. Lucia. And as I'm applying to medical schools, I'm thinking I'm probably going to go to medical school in Dallas or something. I was living in Dallas at the time. And right down the street from where I live, there was the office of this medical school that was located in St. Lucia, so close that I could walk there. So I went over there, I inquired, and they're like, our next semester starts in a couple of weeks. You're an amazing candidate. I want you to come here. And I'm like, I don't know, it's far, but at the same time, I'm like, I need to leave the situation I'm in I loved this girl I was with, but it wasn't a right relationship. And so I felt the best thing for me at that time was probably get as far away as possible. And so the next thing I knew, I was out in St. Lucia, living in a beautiful place and getting my mind off of her and digging into the books and studying. And so I spent some time there, and then I did my clinical rotations in Atlanta, Georgia. I did several at Emory University. Wellstar, which is a big, company that has a lot of different hospitals in the Atlanta area. I did one rotation in Norman, the state mental hospital, Norman, Oklahoma. Otherwise, I was mostly based in Atlanta. And then, it was an amazing experience. And actually, this book, it's called International Medical Graduates in the United States. I wrote 7 chapters in this book, which has opened the doors for many different things going forward. I started teaching foreign medical doctors research that wanted to come into the United States. It's a really difficult process if you're a foreign graduate. You have to take the USMLEs, and you need to do much better than American graduates to be able to match into a residency. You need to be very well published, and you need to have a very strong background. So just one of the chapters that I wrote in this book is called Confidence, Self-Image, and Self-Esteem. And so just trying to help foreign graduates and what they need to accomplish and get through. So most recently, this book got acknowledged by the APA. And out of nowhere, I get an email from them that they want me to be part of a panel and do a oral presentation with 3 other docs, one from Harvard, one from Yale, and one from Columbia University, and me. So the 4 of us will be presenting on diversity, inclusion, and foreign graduates in the United States that are going into psychiatry and their place in this field. So that's where it's led. So
That's
again,
amazing.
Going back to this terrible relationship and being like, why did this have to happen? Good things come out of our experiences. So that's how I try to live my life.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. And congratulations on being invited on the panel. That's a big deal.
Thank you.
The one thing that I noticed about you is that you seem very relatable.
Thank you.
And you're personable. And I like that. And I'm sure that our professionals here online can actually appreciate that as well. That's key. And for everyone here, I would like to let you know, thank you so much for hanging in there with us, because you have referred patients consistently. However, sometimes it's been a wait. And the reason why is because we've been waiting for professionals and doctors such as Dr. Ratovsky. And Dr. Amen was not going to compromise, but we wanted to make sure when we brought you someone, it was someone that was going to do well by you and your patients. So I would love to open up the floor. I want you guys to ask questions. We already have Amanda. I see your hand raised. So I'm going to jump off and I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor.
Hi, everybody.
You're muted.
There we go. Okay.
Hey,
Hi,
how you
everybody.
doing?
So we have quite an issue. Well, I'm a brain health coach. I don't have a therapy background, which is fine. That's not what I do. I coach people through their problems and get them to their goals. So that's why I've sent quite a few patients up there, including my stepdaughter. She's had her scan done. So my question is, we have a really big problem here in Southwest Virginia of doctors overprescribing medications that look like they actually hurt each other.
Yeah.
So how comfortable are you at untangling all that neuropharmacology?
Oh, yeah. No, I think that's an excellent question, because it's not, just a regional issue. This is an issue that's going on throughout the whole country, right? So a lot of psychiatrists are trained to be, you have an issue, let's add a medication on to solve that issue. But we always have to think about there's 2 sides to every medication, 2 sides of the coin. There's the side that will help you, and there's the side that will cause a side effect. And so typically, a lot of psychiatrists and a lot of practitioners will say, okay, we're making some progress here, but now we've caused this problem here. And instead of maybe trying something else and taking it away and trying a new medication that might have less of a side effect and still help here, they just add on another medication. So sometimes we really have to take a big step, look at everything that's going on, look at what type of symptoms that they're having, which ones got worse, and say, well, this symptom wasn't as bad before you started that medication, so maybe we should take this one away and try something new here. So it's a puzzle, but if you take your time with it and you realize where some of these symptoms are coming from, it's fun. It's fun to correct what's wrong and to try to be a better psychiatrist than the one that caused the problem to begin with. So love it. Great question.
Awesome. Yeah, great question. Appreciate that. We have a question. Someone actually just typed in the chat here. Let's see. What are any unique recovery cases? Also, what food and nutritional options can you recommend?
That's a great question. So one of my favorite, nutritional choices for most patients would be an anti-inflammatory diet, removing as much of the processed foods, the glucose, and depending on the brain type. So the scans are helpful for this. For example, if you see issues with the temporal lobes, the frontal lobes, the limbic system, high protein diets work very well for this. ADD, high protein diet. But people that are more obsessive type, that have a lot of OCD, obsessive thinking, a balanced diet is better than a high protein diet. So it really depends on the patient's brain and how we want to target it. And also what are their strategy on, are they trying to lose weight? Are they trying to build muscle and other things like that? So because I have a background in fitness training, I also incorporate a lot of nutrition based off their fitness goals as well and their brain goals. So we try to combine a combination of the two.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
I'm going to go to
I think you might have muted yourself, Damien.
no, I did, but I went ahead and Stephen, you're good to go. You're unmuted.
Stephen?
Yes, Stephen.
Yes, okay. I've seen some criticism of SPEC studies using that as a means to diagnose psychiatric disorders, in that blood flow doesn't necessarily tell you can get down to the program that the brain is executing. It's nerve cells, there's inhibition and excitatory activity, and that just by blood flow alone, you can't see what it's doing. So that the SPEC study doesn't really tell you anything about what the brain's doing.
Okay. No, great question. So I'll give you an example of how I've been here for a short time, and I've had a case where it's been very helpful. I had a patient that was in a motor vehicle accident. She said that she has seen 20 different doctors, okay, trying to come to a solution and understanding of why the symptoms she's having. One of those symptoms she was having was anorexia. Okay. Another was depression. And another thing, she wasn't sleeping well. And she just wasn't acting like herself after the accident. So my question was, she said she hit her head. She had some concussions in her life. She had a lamp that fell on her head earlier on. When I got the scans, beforehand, I thought, oh, it's probably some type of traumatic brain injury. But when I got the scans, I was able to see that she really didn't have significant trauma that was caused by impact to her brain. But I saw so much in her emotional part of the brain lit up from her, the limbic system, the basal ganglia, the anterior cingulate gyrus, the diamond pattern, and I was able to express to her that I think that her being in the hospital, hospitalized, having internal hemorrhaging, all these other things that happened to her was a traumatic experience for her. And based off of some of the symptoms that she was having too, with the poor sleep, thinking about the accident, the combination of using DSM tools and the scans, it allowed her to better understand that her symptom was more based off of PTSD. And so what it does is it provides a better understanding to the patient when you're trying to express, what what her symptoms are and her symptomology. And it gives them a visual to be able to relate with and to better understand. There was another case I recently had where I thought the scans were completely off and I was scratching my head. But what happened was it allowed me to ask better questions. And while she didn't have the history in her report, right, it wasn't initially given to the historian. I asked and kept asking and asking more questions, but what I was seeing in the scans, and I dug out so much history from her, and then it made sense. And then we realized that she had some other issues going on she wasn't even aware of, which was more trauma-focused things too. Then she started opening up about, yes, I cry in the middle of the night, I'm waking up, I'm sleeping, I'm having flashbacks. I grew up in the Bronx in a bad neighborhood, and I heard gunshots all night long. So she didn't even mention that in her history. But that's why she was having poor sleep. Her initial complaint was, I'm having trouble with my memory, I'm having trouble focusing. And it turned out that she's been waking up in the middle of the night, crying and having difficult times in sleep. So rather than going and spending 30 minutes in a typical practice where I'd say, oh, it's probably ADD, you need a better focus, here's some Adderall. I was able to have that time to spend with them, have the scan to ask better questions, and be able to come and realize that, what you're experiencing is not normal. She thought maybe that's normal. And to realize that some of the early trauma from living in this neighborhood and being exposed to this was actually probably giving her poor sleep, and that maybe we can correct this. And then it wasn't reported in her history either, was her diet. She's on intermittent fasting diet, which is a great diet. But for some people, they need the extra glucose in their brain to be able to function by the end of the day. She had a very difficult job. She was an aerospace engineer. And so she's calculating very difficult mathematical equations, and she's not eating. So I'm like, that's another reason why you're falling behind on your work. So between not sleeping and not eating, we're able to come to a better solution. Maybe change your diet a little bit, and let's work on your sleep, and let's get you into therapy for PTSD. So I'm as a new patient, I haven't followed up with her yet, but I'm quite sure that she's going to do well.
Awesome.
And many of these people have seen many psychiatrists and have not made any progress. So what we're doing here is really taking care of a patient from so many different angles, and it allows us more time and different angles and more pieces of the puzzle to work with.
So what I think you're saying is that blood flow can tell you what the brain, what program the brain is running and where the program is running afoul.
Yeah, you can. You can definitely see if someone has had major concussions and has caused issues to blood flow on the surface of the brain, the cortex, which I did not see with one of the patients who had a concussion. But then I asked her more about the concussion. It wasn't a major concussion, but in the past she had thought, that was a patient with a motor vehicle accident. She had thought all her symptoms were based off of the concussion, and the scan was better able to help me to say, I'm not seeing anything that may be related to severe concussions. What I'm seeing is a lot of emotional things going on with you. And I think the motor vehicle accident for that patient was the root of the cause. She was hospitalized. She had hemorrhaging. It was a traumatic experience for her.
So it changed what you were looking for from a concussion to trauma, to emotional trauma.
It's very good at being able to determine those two.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate
Yeah.
that. Thank you, Doc. Hope that answered your question. Appreciate that. Very good questions.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Taylor, you're next. You have the floor.
All right. So Dr. Ian, it's a pleasure to meet you. So I've got two people that I'm already thinking about referring to you. One of them, I'm just curious, how comfortable you feel with working with like autism spectrum disorders, especially ones that have like obsessive compulsive features to them.
Mhm. Yeah, no. So autism is a very difficult diagnosis. Obviously, I have a couple that I'm going to be working with that I recently was consulted on. Very complicated autistic cases. Autism is something that is kind of close to my heart, not because I have any family with it, but my wife, her mother has a PhD, special education, and she focused on autism. She's published 7 textbooks on the topic, so she's someone I could consult with very easily. And then, on top of that, I would say my dad's best friend in the world, they lived in Brooklyn together, they moved to Florida together, they moved to Dallas together. His son is autistic. And so when I was younger, they used to be like, bring him to the mall, take him shopping and do stuff like that. So I spent a lot of time with him and trying to help him out. So, learning more about autism. And then my wife had volunteered a lot with autistic people because her mother. And then my mom is a special education teacher. So she's worked with autistic patients and ADD, dyslexia.
Yeah. And I'm sure you can understand referring a client with autism, they're going to want to know those details and say, hey, this guy, he knows his stuff, right? So that helps out a lot. The other thing that I have a question.
Especially the high functioning autism, yeah.
Right.
Oh
right.
man, they know everything. They really dig into every little detail.
Yeah, they're so smart, so smart. Love working with them. The other, so I have a medication. So I have client DID stuff, or at least dissociation stuff, who's not responding to medications, right? I'm wondering what type of like non-medical interventions you use for that, because you said DID and those kinds of things. Have you seen any success with maybe using supplements or using other naturalistic?
So now let me ask you, is it a dissociative identity disorder? They're having multiple personalities? Is it dissociative fugue? Are they traveling places? Do they think that they have family members in other places?
Sorry. I think it's more just kind of the derealization, depersonalization, just dissociation from the body. A little bit, a possible DID, maybe in like the beginning stages of that. Some of that, because I've seen a few. Like there's a couple moments where I can see like a clear delineation, but for the most part, it's just kind of that dissociation.
Okay, so the most important thing when you're talking about dissociation and there's like out-of-body experiences, looking down upon each other, the first thing is to rule out, is it based off of anxiety? Are they a very anxious person? Is that why they're doing it? Or is it trauma-based? So if you want to really kind of key in and see why they're dissociating and looking down on their body or feeling like things are unreal, then try to find the source of the solution and treat the source. If it's more trauma-based, then of course going and treating it similar to the PTSD, EMDR, cognitive behavioral, and what has been effective is hypnosis. So I've seen some success in that, but still uncovering a lot of things. I'm actually working on a book, so I'm doing a lot of research on it right now. And so the book is about 75% done. And it'll be ready in June 2023. So I'm uncovering more and more and more into my research. And there's such little to deal with and so much little research on this. It's been quite a project. But I have found that hypnosis has actually been very effective.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Taylor. I appreciate the question. Next, we have Terry, and then we have Deborah.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I want to thank Dr. Rutkofsky. I'm saying your name wrong.
Rutkofsky. Yeah, yeah, there you
go. Being that you stated that you are or have been focused on treating trauma, I have a question for you.
Sure.
A few years ago, I developed what my doctor diagnosed as pseudo seizures.
Okay.
So I wanted to know if you can please tell me what extent this trauma can play on the development of this disorder.
Sure. I'd like to obviously talk to you more in private at some point if you want, because I think that, I would like to ask you more questions to have a better understanding about what has gone on in your life, because it's, pseudo seizures obviously is more associated with trauma. There is a big correlation with that, along with other issues that can be tied to it. But I do think that there is quite a link between trauma and pseudo seizures, if that's what you're asking.
Yes, that is basically what I'm asking. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep, I would agree.
You're muted, Damien.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry about that. Deborah, you have the floor. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you. I'm going to try to put my video on. I'm not sure if it'll work. I'm on an iPad, so
Yes, that's fine.
you probably just hardly see me. My computer wasn't working. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm more comforted now that I've been online with you guys. I marched to the sound of a little bit of a different drummer. I've been working with attorneys now for 14 years and have been involved with Amen Clinics through a referral by Dr. Henslin and the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor all the way back in 2014. And so I've gone on a personal journey with Amen Clinics. Because of you, I'm healthier and happier, and all of my family, pretty much most of my family, have done brain scans. I still haven't gotten mine completely. I've talked to Tom Bowen in Atlanta, and I've never gone there, which is part of my problem. But the question I have for you is, one of the challenges that I have, I'm now really going to focus 100% on attorney well-being. I do have a leadership development program, which includes a lot of positive psychology and, mindfulness, meditation programs. It's called Courage Keepers. I've spoken to the American Bar Association. I've done many presentations to attorneys, and I've used Amen Clinic products and Amen Clinic research. And, I also am a humanity clown, so I kind of use humor for peace along with so I don't know if I'll ever have offended Doc Amen by the way I've abused some of his things, but I have a program called Bedtime Stories for Lawyers where I read some of the children's books that y'all and I've taught lessons and broken out into breakout sessions, read about ants and all of these wonderful things. Negative side of it, I'm not a doctor. I am a coach. There was a long time where I was not able to get any kind of remuneration for being an Amen Clinics health coach, because there was ethically, and I don't know what the rules were. Now through the Amen University, I'm understanding that we can probably do a little bit more. And I have joined again the affiliate program. But my question to you is this: when I have referred people to the clinics, and I want to compliment you for working with foreign doctors, because one of the things that I create are well-being circles. And sometimes I've even referred people to foreign countries for medical, India, where there's a lot of preventative cardiology care, and what's good for the brain is good for the heart. But I've noticed that when Amen Clinics gives us in my little Podok area of Tennessee, and put terms, but honestly and truly, when we get these marvelous reviews and we get the medical advice that sometimes confuses psychiatrists, psychologists, and doctors in our local area, because It may allow for medicine that helps with anxiety as well as focus. And there's these rules about not having these two kinds of medicine, being given to people. We get doctors that won't follow the advice and prescribe. So I'm wondering if the clinics themselves, when people go to the clinics, even though they're out of state, is there anything that prevents the clinicians and the doctors in that area to just go ahead and make the prescription? Because once the prescription is there, then you can follow it through in our local areas, and people they're not as questioning as to why you now need a prescription for Adderall as well as, something to calm you down. For example, I'm just using that as a theoretical example, and I'm sure you know more. I'm not a medical professional,
Sure.
never be.
Question: when you're talking about like a combination of medications, like one Adderall to help you focus and then one to calm you down, are you talking about like benzodiazepines, or are you talking about?
I know that
cannabis?
I know that we're really working against the benzo and all that, and I'm very grateful. One of the big issues, I'm on a lot of large national boards for attorney well-being now. So I'm going to really work hard on this focus for attorney well-being. And I appreciated what you said about the blood flow and recognizing PTSD and other things, because when attorneys lose focus, when attorneys can't concentrate, when attorneys start having problems, they go to what are called lawyer assistance programs if they are borderline malpractice, right? So we meaning my little group, we try to catch attorneys before they get that far. And then I try to send them to Amen clinics. But it's been a very sad disappointment to not have the right medical referrals here locally in Tennessee, Mississippi, and Alabama. Those are the 3 states that I have sent someone to with a scan with recommendations, not just for the medications, but for not just for nutraceuticals, but also medications. And local physicians have been resistant to give them those prescriptions. So I'm just wondering, you give prescriptions in your, straight out of after you get your brain.
Right. So certain medications are very controlled by the DEA and require monthly refills in very blood and especially with pain medications and benzodiazepine stimulants. Some people really need their stimulants. Some people really need their medications. As long as they're following up regularly, getting the blood work that they need to do. If you're licensed, the doctor needs to be licensed in the state that you're sending the prescription to. For example, I'm licensed in 7 states. So if I'm working with people of those 7 states, I can send them prescriptions to those 7 states. Awesome. But if it's another state, for example, I'm not licensed in Mississippi, I can work with a patient there, but I can't be prescribing them medication there. I can do supplements, I can work with them, but especially controlled drugs. But so as long as they have a provider that's a psychiatrist and they're following up regularly, then they should be able to get their medications.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm very, very impressed and thrilled with the progress that the legal community has made in recognizing Amen clinics. And just recently, we had one of the largest assemblies of lawyers, judges, and well-being people, coming from the international group of lawyer well-being. And I recognized that the judges were using Amen Clinic scans when they were
That's so cool.
And so I know they're doing that, and I am grateful for that. But at the same time, I do want to maybe have some more connections with people that could prescribe a little bit better for some of my attorneys that I work with in the South. And also, I would love to introduce some of these foreign programs that we have that we do wellness circles with, like the preventative cardiac care in India, and have them become more involved with Amen clinics as well, because I think, they're very compatible. So I hope we can stay in touch, but thank you.
That's amazing.
I really have, from the time I started till now, I've lost 100 pounds with diet and with the right brain thing. So
Congrats.
I'm a good testimonial. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. I'm so happy for you.
Deborah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Deborah. And just really quick, I'm so sorry, Damon, to piggyback off of the prescribing for out-of-state patients out of Virginia, we are seeing patients in person. So if they're willing to travel to the clinic and see Dr. Ratovsky out of the Virginia clinic in person, they can always have the option to leave with a hard copy script, and then they can take that to the pharmacy. So that's always an option. And, our docs are available for long-term care. So, over time, if they want to kind of travel into the clinic and do that and see the doctor in person on a regular basis, that's always an option as well.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thanks for clarifying. I appreciate that, Morgan. All right, so we have 10 minutes left. So next we have Lynn, and then we have Holly. If we can maybe ask us some brief questions, and then we'll wrap up.
Oh, yes, thank you. I just didn't remember what the doctor said in the beginning. He said associated something disorder, but I don't remember what he said.
The book. So it's called DID, dissociative identity disorder.
Oh,
and so a lot of people are very familiar with multiple personality disorder. Now, it is the same thing. They changed the name, just like they changed the name of like Asperger's to autism spectrum disorder. So from the DSM-4 to the DSM-5, they changed the name from multiple personality disorder to dissociative identity disorder. It's a very rare condition. It's a complicated form of trauma. So the nickname is sometimes called complicated PTSD.
I got you. I wanted to know, were you licensed in New Jersey, and do you accept insurance, and do you do virtual?
I'm not licensed in New Jersey, but I'm willing to, if there's a big referral, I would always be willing to go that route as well. I'm licensed in, Virginia, Maryland, Ohio, North Carolina, Florida, Pennsylvania. So,
and Lynn, I would love to connect with you. We can talk a little bit more so about, the patients that you're seeing, and just far as insurance and payment, we can talk about that. So I'd love to schedule some time with you. And that's perfect. I would love to do that. And thanks for your question. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, we have so many questions in the chat, and we also have others that have their hands raised. We just have time really for one more question, and then we're just going to wrap up, which basically tells me that this was effective and this was worth your time. And I appreciate that. I'm happy that it was successful. So if you don't mind, Holly, I'm sorry, did someone have something they had to say? Quan?
I was trying to say, see if you can squeeze at least 2 in. Just make them quick.
2 more in? Okay. All right, let's see if we get 2 more in. All right, so that'll be Holly and Melissa.
Love your approach. Just a quick question. I don't know if you've got this data or not. We do neuro back at our clinic. We do QEEGs. Wondering how QEEGs and SPECT scans correlate and what extra data we might be able to gain from SPECT scans.
That's a really good question. So sometimes I don't think we have a QEEG here in the DC area. I think when people don't do a SPECT scan, sometimes we refer to QEEG to try to provide as much information as possible that we can gather about the brain, because it is a very useful tool to be able to understand the brain from a different perspective. Just kind of like visualizing it, it gives you some different brainwave and patterns that are very useful as well. So we're always open to it, and especially I think we need more. I believe we need more providers to contract with us to be able to provide those services. From my understanding.
Hey, and I can just chime in with a little more clarification on the difference between the two studies. My name's Gigi. I work with several of the Amen clinics. They're very similar, and I've had people explain that looking at a SPECT scan and a QEEG is like standing in the same room from different corners. So you're looking at the same thing, but a different perspective. So the SPECT scan is a map of blood flow, and a QEEG is a map of electrical activity. So they're both showing activity, but it's a different view. And a SPECT scan can get a little deeper and give us more information on kind of the deep limbic system than you can typically get on a Q.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
I'll be really quick. I'm actually board certified in neurofeedback, and I have an office. I'm in Atlanta. I have a couple offices here, but I actually have an office in Delaware and opening up in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. And I was going to ask the same question, but I will be up that way and hopefully be meeting with Damien. But I'd love to meet you also, Dr. Ian, if that would be possible. I'll be up the first week of January, and I have ability to come up and do QEGs in the clinic, and maybe we
Oh,
could
wow, amazing. Yeah, because I heard we were lacking that in the past. So that's cool. That's why I
Thank
mentioned
you
it.
guys, and excited that you're open to it. So I'd love to bring you guys coffee or lunch and meet you while I'm up there.
Amazing. Thank you.
You can bribe us with food. That's okay. No, but that'll be awesome. That'll be good. No, it's a meeting with you. I think that's going to be good for us to really open line of communication. And Dr. Ian, I appreciate it. Thank you so very much for taking the time out to meet with our professionals. Really appreciate it. It was informative. I believe everyone on the line here really got a good grasp of kind of who you are, kind of get to understand the essence of who you are. And what I would like to do is, if anyone is interested in just maybe introducing yourself personally to him, just maybe a quick call before you start to refer patients, that would be great. I would love to set that up. And as I mentioned before, we really appreciate your patience, because I understand that, it has been some waits and some delays as far as getting patients in, scanned and seen. But as you can see, it was worth the wait. We want to make sure that we're able to offer quality. And our clinicians are quality clinicians, and someone that you can trust and you can sleep at night when you refer your clients. So they're in capable hands. And I know as he was speaking, more than likely you were thinking of various clients so that you may want to refer. What you can do is the first on the chat, if you scroll all the way up, you'll see all of the all of the comms, the communication outreach managers, all of us, all of our information is listed. So you're able to actually go in, identify your state, and then reach out to us. We'll love to talk to you a little further, a little bit more, and have you come by for a tour and facilitate the process, the referral process for you. So that is our time. I think we have about us. Actually, you know what I'm going to do for you guys before we close out? I'm going to just copy and paste that information again for you, so you don't have to worry about scrolling through. And I'm going to actually hang around for anyone who has any additional questions. And that concludes our time. I really appreciate everybody. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time when we introduce our next stop.
Yeah, thank you all for joining. It's a real pleasure. And I loved all your questions. So hope to work with you all in the future. Yeah.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.